Welcome back to the Tulsa World Sports Extra Show. I'm your host, Juwan Lee, joined today by columnist Bill Haisten, sports editor Barry Lewis, and a new addition to the Tulsa World team, Berry Tramel. As he said, he wants me to call because we have two Barrys on here too. So to avoid some of the confusion, our sports editor, we're going to call him Barry, and our new columnist, Berry Tramel, we're going to call Tram. So Tram, how are you today?
Well, I'm doing great. We got two berries and then we got two Tramels too. Jimmy, of course, everybody in Tulsa knows Jimmy's been around, I think, the world 35 years, 37 years. So I think Tram's a good moniker for me. But boy, I'm pleased and proud to join the world. I've known those two guys forever. I've known you about 48 hours, and but really really looking forward to joining the world.
Well, we appreciate having you, Tram, and we're going to get right to some of these topics today because we have a great show today. First, I want to start with some softball World Series going on this week. Tram, I'll start this topic off with you. I'm that because this is an article that I actually seen a few days ago about Texas coach Mike White saying that OU has an unfair advantage with being able to host the College World Series every year. In your opinion, first, does it create an unfair advantage for OU to host it? And do you ever see the location rotating?
Well, I think clearly the Sooners do have an advantage getting to play the World Series in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma State does as well. Unfair advantage, I don't know. To have to define unfair, you got to play it somewhere. Will this tournament ever move? Maybe. People have been trying to move the men's World Series out of Omaha for about 40 years, and it hadn't gone anywhere. If somebody wants to spend about $100 million on a softball stadium that would be used basically 2 weeks a year and knock yourself out, they can have it probably on a rotating basis. Until then, it's a moot question. I mean, there's nothing remotely like this in America, and Oklahoma City, particularly the city and the USA softball over the decades have put a lot of money, a lot of resources, a lot of sweat equity into this facility and have created something really special. And now softball is known as synonymous with Oklahoma City, the same way baseball, College World Series for the men, is known in Omaha.
Hey, Hasten, before you answer, because I wanna make sure we get the best answer from this. Maybe the proper question isn't could it move, should it move?
Well, I mean, Barry nailed the essence of what I was going to say, which is that the identity of the World Series, of the Women's World Series, is as much connected to Oklahoma City as the men's baseball is to Omaha. But what other facility, Juwan, is centrally located in the U.S. map with that level of seating capacity and is a facility specifically designed for softball? There is none. It's perfect. It's and OU doesn't host. I mean, it just happens to be in Oklahoma City, but it just feels like they host. Is it unfair? No, it's not. It just happened. It's just circumstantial. It's in Oklahoma City. At the same time, OU has been historically great. So no, I don't think it's unfair. It's unfortunate for some of the other teams that OU has been so great for so long, and in particular in that ballpark. But I don't think it's unfair. It just is what it is. And if you don't like it, I mean, I guess beat OU. I mean, but it's right in the heart. It's right in the heart of the map, Juwan, and it's just really convenient with regard to travel for a lot of people. And I don't, and like Barry said, unless somebody steps up and builds like a Taj Mahal facility somewhere else in the country specifically for softball, I don't see this moving from Oklahoma City.
I'm old school, so I love it. Even though I've never been to the College World Series in Omaha, I would hate to ever see it move just because that's something I've always grown up with. And I would hate to see, likewise, I'd hate to see the Women's College World Series move from Oklahoma City. I could see it happening someday because money always talks. Money always rules, it seems like. But if it was, yes, it is an advantage for OU and OSU for the tournament to be in Oklahoma City. But if home location was what it's all about to winning, then you'd see Nebraska or Creighton or Omaha ever prevail in the College World Series in baseball some year. So it's great having it in Oklahoma City and hope it stays there.
Sticking with OU, we have our OU beat writer Eric Bailey down there at the SEC Springs meetings in Florida. One of the key things that Brent Venables said yesterday, as we're recording on a Wednesday, the May the 29th, was that the SEC offers OU a different type of credibility. Bill, I'll start with you with this question. Will we see OU's recruiting change any with this SEC stamp moving
Well,
forward?
I mean, it has to. It has to if they're going to succeed in the SEC, Juwan, even close to the level at which they have succeeded in the Big 12. To me, the word isn't credibility. It certainly puts OU in on the biggest platform in college football. But with regard to credibility, I mean, Vandy and Mississippi State and South Carolina, they've been in the SEC a long time, and they are way down the ladder with regard to credibility below OU. So I think it could maybe enhance OU's credibility, but OU takes a bunch of credibility into that league. Otherwise, they wouldn't be going into that league. So, should it or will it change the recruiting? I mean, time will tell, but I mean, it has to, though, for them to compete. It's got to. And it won't hurt to have the SEC patch on their jersey, Juwan, when they do go out to recruit and to entice guys out of the portal.
I would say so many kids that I talked to, and this is even before OU joined, before it was announced OU was going to join the SEC. Here's so much about the chance to play in the SEC. What's the determining factor? And this is even before NIL really became so prevalent. That was so big when I talked to kids who are that type of recruit. So I think it's got to help OSU OU to some extent, although OU's already doing pretty well in recruiting as it is. But I think it will take OU up a notch.
Yeah, I think it can only help. What we've seen in the last 15 years, guys, is we've seen the SEC brand explode. Clearly a great marketing campaign. It just means more, a Saturday NFL basically. And what over 15 years, what we've seen is an uptick in the status of signing with an SEC school. Texas A&M has reaped those benefits pretty clearly since leaving the Big 12 in 2011. So I think a lot of kids grow up all over the country wanting to play in the SEC. Some of it's legit, some of it's hype, but I think it can't do anything but help the Sooners recruiting.
Moving on to our next topic, and if you guys are kind of wondering what Bill is looking at a little bit, he's out there at Bixby today enjoying a great day of football. I don't know how the weather is looking out there, but I mean, any time to be around football is a great time. Bill, kind of talk to us about what's the landscape out there and the atmosphere for you.
Well, with regard to the weather, it's overcast and 20 degrees cooler than it was here a year ago. So it's really amazing. I saw Kirk Frederick, the Union coach, first guy I saw when I got here, and he said, "How about this weather?" So beautiful day. A lot of high-end football is played here. It's a team camp. It's a 3-day team camp involving Edmond Memorial, Midwest City, Bixby Union, and East St. Louis, the #1 program in the state of Illinois, which last year was a state runner-up. 2 years ago, state champion. And the biggest high school football team I've ever seen. And I'm watching about a 6'6" wide receiver from East St. Louis run down the sideline as we speak. But it's been, this is particularly interesting to me because Shaker Reisig, who's the #1 quarterback in the state and Union's senior now quarterback, is committed to Utah. And he has never faced Juwan. He has faced everybody else multiple times. And by everybody else, I mean the BAs and Owasos and those other big dogs around here, but he has never competed in a game against Bixby. And so here today, you get to see Shaker Reisig take snaps in a very spirited team camp. This isn't 7-on-7, this is 11-on-11 football, and they're hitting and they're fully padded. So, is this, I mean, I think Barry Lewis and I have been expecting for a couple of years to see Union and Bixby, in a December game, in a championship game, and maybe this is the year for that. But this is it with regard to like seeing really well played football in the month of May, and this is a pretty good day.
Barry, any other comments you kind of have about how's the landscape of high school football in Oklahoma right now? I know you've been around some of our schools on our spring football tour. Just kind of talk to me about what you have seen so far.
Yeah, it's uh, the transfer portal of high school football, so to speak. That is sort of like on everyone's mind, and it's still not going to like totally shake out until later in the summertime. It'll be interesting to see who goes where. I mean, there's already been some high profile moves. Jenks has really helped itself in the past month. They've gotten 3 really big time players, 2 from Lincoln Christian and Caleb Barnett from Broken Arrow. So they lost Hudson Ball, whose family moved back to Arkansas, and so he's going to be at Shiloh Christian. But Bartlesville's added a couple really big time players, including the Bartlesville's all-time career rushing leader. So it'll be interesting to see where the transfer portal, so to speak, takes us during the summertime.
You know, guys, as a guy who's been on the west side of the state my whole life, now working for the World, the east side dominance fascinates me, and what it's sort of become a pendulum that's come back, you know, in terms of the Jinx domination 25 years ago, and now we see Bixby doing the same thing. And in between, the Tulsa area schools actually had a little bit of parity with Union, Owasso, Jinx. Here came Bixby, Broken Arrow, you know, from time to time. And, you know, I'm old enough to remember 1975, 1988. I think those were the years. We had 14 football seasons, 14 different champions in the big schools. We had literally anybody could win it, and often did. And now the power, of course, is all in the East, and the power all seems to be at Bixby at this current time. So just the domination of one school in one dominant region really fascinates me. Bill has told me a lot about Lauren Montgomery and the amazing program he's built at Bixby, and I'm anxious to see and learn a lot more about it.
Transitioning to our rapid fire section, back to the collegiate level. Bill wrote a very good column a few days ago about ORU. Last year, I got here in pretty much the dead heap of ORU's College World Series run. Bill, for you, do you see ORU having a chance to repeat its magic from last season?
No, they did have a really nice final month of the season, Juwan, which kind of began with a 3-1 victory, a midweek home win over OU. And of course, ORU plays this weekend at Norman, right? So there's that storyline. But with regard to a real chance to have a Cinderella run, I really don't see it, because last year ORU had the best team. And I made sure to check with Barry Lewis on this to see if he agreed with it, but he did. But ORU's team last year was historically great, the best team they've ever had, and they've been a consistently really strong baseball program. And they might have had the best offense in the nation last year to get to Omaha the way they did, to beat Oregon in a super regional out there, high drama. They're just not that potent this year, Juwan. They just don't have that kind of lineup. So, you know, Friday will be really interesting. Could ORU sneak in and steal one and make the weekend super interesting? Of course they could, because Ryan Fulmer is an elite coach. And every year that ORU keeps him, I think, is a great bonus for ORU, because every year I kind of expect somebody to steal him. But with regard to them making a special run through the supers and on back to Omaha, that would be a shocker. So I don't see that happening.
Tram, your question, I'll be honest, I took this from our editor, Jason Collington. We were at lunch yesterday. I heard him ask you, what was the next major league sports team could you possibly see in Oklahoma? So I wanted to bring that to the podcast. So there's the question. What major league sports team could you see in Oklahoma next?
Well, I think it's going to be difficult to add a second one in addition to the Thunder because of market size and those things. But if you consider MLS, Major League Soccer, which in its title, it's Major League, I think MLS might be the most likely landing spot, and I actually think it fits best in Tulsa, which has a great soccer tradition going back to the Roughnecks, 1983 NASL champions, and MLS needs corporate support, and I think it could get it in Tulsa. but it also needs a venue. So that's the biggest thing: is what kind of a soccer stadium could Oklahoma City or Tulsa produce? Oklahoma City's long talked about one, but when or if that could occur, then I think either one of them is in the ballpark for a Major League Soccer franchise.
Barry, back to the high school level. Of last year's state football champions, which of those teams is most likely not to make a return to the state title game?
I'm going to say it's Blanchard in 4A. They, of course, shocked everyone by beating Wagner in the state championship game last year. I think Wagner I'm even convinced more so than ever after visiting Wagner during my spring football tour that Wagner is going to reclaim its title this year. But I think Blanchard is probably the least likely. And they were hit by some major graduation losses. And locally here, probably among the Tulsa area state champions would probably be Lincoln Christian. And a lot of people counted them out going into last season too. But so I'm not counting them out, but just compared to the other local teams that are state champions, I think they've got more question marks just because of people. They suffered a lot of major losses, and they haven't had people who are proven performers yet at the varsity level.
All right, time for our final segment of the show, our parting shots. Barry, our sports editor, will let you lead it off. What final comments do you have to leave with our audience for this week?
This sort of sneaked under the radar a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but Sapulpa's Tyler Hurd, who had signed back in November to play basketball at Abilene Christian, got her release from there and signed with ORU. So a really nice pickup for ORU. So this is great news for local basketball fans and great news for ORU. And now the next question is, will Tyler Hurd win the All-World Girls Basketball Player of the Year Award? Come and find out June 20th, Thursday night at the All-World Awards banquet. And for your tickets, go to allworldawards.com. So can Tyler Hurd follow her sister as a Girls Player of the Year? June 20th. Find out.
I'm excited to be able to attend my first all-world banquet this year as well. So, but Tram, your parting shot.
Yeah, over the weekend, America lost a treasure in Bill Walton. Those of us of a certain generation remember Bill Walton as one of the great players of all time, one of the 2 or 3 best college basketball players we've ever seen, as the UCLA center. But then he became a great NBA player, and then an iconic broadcaster with his whimsical ways and his joy for life. And flipping around the television on a Thursday, late on a Thursday night, you stumble upon an Oregon State Arizona basketball game. You had to stop and listen to Bill Walton and some of the crazy things he might say. But he's just a joy to be around. Harkens back to the John Wooden dynasty of the late 60s, early 70s. Unbelievable player. If he was playing today, he would have been made for this level of the NBA. The way he could shoot and pass, and just the skill level as a big man, tailor-made for modern times. But he really was a man for all seasons. We will miss Bill Walton.
So the Thunder was, Barry, Berry Tramel, I got to tell you, both Barrys, I was really hit a lot harder yesterday by the Bill Walton passing than I would have expected. Although I've always loved him and what he was, both on the floor and in the broadcast business. But that really popped me good. I didn't feel that coming, and I didn't expect to really feel quite that jolted, but I really was. Anyway, here's my quick parting shot is the Thunder was eliminated by the eventual NBA champion in 2011, the Mavericks. In 2012, obviously the Heat in the finals. In 2014 by the Spurs, who went on to win it all. And the 2016 Warriors should have won it all, but they got chased down, blocked out of it by LeBron and at the end. But the point of revisiting that history is I have become a believer now that Dallas, as a 5 seed out of the West, can beat Boston. Minnesota had their 15 minutes the other night. They got their one win. They avoided the sweep, but Dallas is going to win that series. And I have a firm believer that Dallas, with its style of play, with what it did with those trades and what it has become over the last 2.5 months of the season and in the postseason, I would pick Dallas to win in the finals over a Boston team that now has 76 wins this season. But I'm just a believer in Dallas. And I expected Oak City to beat Dallas in the second round, but I thought it would be a tough 7-game series. Dallas played beautifully. Dallas has continued to play beautifully, and I'm expecting Dallas to get another championship.
Now that is a parting shot I can get behind, Haisten. I'd love to hear that. That made my day. Well, this has been another great episode of the Tulsa World Specs Extra Show. Tram, did you have fun today?
Had a blast. Hope to do it again soon.
Yes, sir. We can't wait to have you on more episodes. So for Bill Haisten, Berry Tramel, Barry Lewis, I've been your host, Juwan Lee. We'll see you guys next week.